Indiana wins the national championship. Who from the SEC could be the next Indiana? Time to get our SEC squad together.
You're talking ball with the SEC squad. From Alabama to Tennessee, from Georgia to Oklahoma, from Auburn to Texas, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming SEC weekend. It's the SEC squad, and we have a seat for you. Hurt feelings and thin skin are prohibited. Squad up, you're part of the SEC squad.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into our SEC Squad show. Sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and join us as we get you ready talking all things SEC. Of course, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Let's welcome in our panel this week. We've got Zach Blackerby from Locked On Auburn. We got Stephen Willis, Locked On Ole Miss. Jimmy Stein from Locked On Bama. John Williams, Locked On Sooners. I'm Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC. And gents, sad day. This is always that first show back where the college football season has officially ended. We have to wait months and months and months into the desert for the college football season to begin again. But Indiana, the national champs, and it's the craziest story because if I said this, if you come to me in a time machine 2 years ago and went, hey, Indiana's going to win a championship in college football, I think you would have said you're clinically insane. But putting it out there, guys, who from the SEC, pick a team, could be the next Indiana? Zach.
Well, I mean, if you're just going to lob it up to me, I'll say the Auburn Tigers. No, I mean, I think there's several teams in the SEC that have the situation that Indiana could potentially have with these new coaches coming in. I mean, you look at Auburn, you look at Florida, I'll put LSU in that conversation. I mean, and even Ole Miss post Kiffin. I mean, we'll see if they can keep everything going. But all these schools have so much to throw at talent, and whether it's coaching talent or player talent, the resources and infrastructure is there at all of these places. So just from an Auburn point of view, just hearing the Auburn fans talk about like, oh, all the JMU guys followed Kirk Cignetti to Indiana. And we're seeing a similar thing with USF guys following Alex Golesh to Auburn. So, you know, that's obviously a fun comparison. But the big thing here is, like, I think a lot of these schools now that have these new coaches, they look at what happened in Indiana, and like all of a sudden you're filled with hope instantly. It's like, okay, if Indiana can do it, why can't a team who has won a national championship do it?
Yeah, if you want a team rising from the ashes, by the way, it would obviously be the Kentucky Wildcats. If they made a run, that would be very synonymous. But honestly, the surprise team next season is not going to be the surprise team at all. It was the team that was the last in the SEC playoff hunt this year. They have the best quarterback, the best running back, and the best place kicker in the entire country. And that is very rare that you could say that potentially for Ole Miss. Yes, I do think Trinidad is going to be back taking snaps for Ole Miss next season. So I do think Ole Miss has the best chance to be the next SEC team that wins the national title.
Did Tate Sandell, the Lou Groza Award winner, transfer from Oklahoma to Ole Miss, and I just missed it somehow?
Hey, I did watch the playoffs, though, John, and I saw Carnero hit a 57, a 58, and a 56-yarder to win.
Yeah.
That's a good argument.
But he wasn't named the best kicker in college football.
Yeah, that's because never mind. It's all.
I think that award lost all credibility.
Listen, I don't think Ole Miss applies here in the conversation. If we're talking about a team that comes out of nowhere that you don't expect to be good, Ole Miss to me doesn't apply. If Trinidad is back, they're going to be a top 10, top 5 team in college football. Mm-hmm. So that's not a rags to riches underdog story, sandlot, cool run.
But Indiana was in the playoffs last year.
Indiana
was in the playoffs last year.
Okay, but still, 2 years ago, Indiana was what? They were Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the Ole Miss.
If you looked at before the 2025 college football season, nobody took Indiana seriously as a college football playoff contender or a national title contender.
I would say maybe that does apply to Ole. I mean, prior to what Lane had kind of gotten going there in recent years, I think 5 years ago, you'd have been shocked if you said, I think Ole Miss is a playoff team this year. So I think kind of what Ole Miss has been the last couple of decades, I would again, not as dreadful as what Indiana was by no means, but I think they kind of fit that category.
But I mean, despite how Lane left, I think Lane left Ole Miss much better then he
they're
found
loaded. Yes.
And I don't know if Ole Miss is the same program now as it was prior to that, to John's point.
Yeah, I think Lane created Ole Miss into a top-tier SEC program. They have athletes, they have facilities, they have money, they have a plan, they have a coaching staff. Now they have success. I think Lane created, frankly, a new Ole Miss that is a perennial top program.
Well, and I think even Pete Golding has proof of concept with playoff wins. Yeah. You know, he's the rare coach that's a brand new head coach that actually has a playoff win to his resume or two, and a win over Georgia. Like, that dude is in a very unique situation to where you look at Brent Venables 4 years ago, a brand new head coach taking over a program that was left in disaster when Lincoln Riley left. Like, Pete Golding actually is in a pretty golden situation. Sorry.
I would just say be careful with the transitive property there. Like, we got to see Golding coach a full regular season as a head coach, because I could make an argument and go, well, Lincoln Riley's got playoff wins, so clearly he's going to have great success at USC. He hasn't made the playoffs,
but he doesn't.
At USC. So, you know, again, we'll see. Time will tell on Golding.
Yeah, I just think like is most analogous to Indiana in the SEC. Like, what SEC team, like Steven said, I think Kentucky is the most analogous to Indiana. And under Will Stein, they have attacked the portal. You can almost hear Will Stein saying, "Hey, if Indiana can do it, why can't we?" It's similarly located, a basketball school, but they have money. They have a willingness, I think, and I wouldn't be surprised if Kentucky is really good shortly, or on the other hand, still can be what Kentucky's always been. But hey, it starts with quarterback, and Kenny Minchie has significant upside.
Yeah, I think they're the easiest comparison, because Indiana is a basketball school that has sucked at football for forever. So Kentucky, basketball school that has sucked at football forever. But I would throw Vandy into the mix too. I mean, Clark Lee, we laughed at him July of 2022 at SEC Media Days when he said, "I think Vanderbilt could be the best program in the country." We're going, dude, how about you just say you want to get to 6-6 and win a bowl game? Like, baby steps, right? But coming off a 10-2 season where nobody in the world ever thought Vanderbilt would do that, we're looking at him going, that dude might have been onto something. So, and we'll see how good this quarterback is. That, you know, they got the Jared Curtis, the top quarterback out there. So we'll see as he develops. But I think Vanderbilt could fit that category too.
And I don't think we can have this conversation about the conference as a whole, with like who can, you know, rise from the ashes without talking about Florida. I mean, I thought Napier was going to work at Florida. I mean, Florida's a sleeping giant. You talk about resources and where they are on the map and all the talent that's in that state. Florida, there's no reason for Florida to be this bad for this long. So can Sumrall be the guy to turn around Florida? It's going to be somebody. They're eventually going to be good again. There's too much at their disposal for them to be bad for forever. So I think John Sumrall could be a guy to turn a program around too.
And one team that hasn't been mentioned is South Carolina. Lenora Sellers was built in a lab, like I said last week, to play in Kendall Browell's offense.
Yeah, they could certainly be a team that's, you know, if you consider them a team who's never made the playoff, you know, I think that's a team that could certainly, with everything they bring back, Nick Harbor and with the edge rusher and Dylan Stewart and of course Lenora Sellers, who everybody thinks he's going to take that next step. I would also throw Mississippi State in there too. I mean, Jeff Lebby has in the past been a good developer quarterbacks. Again, if Kamario Taylor is awesome, maybe they have a chance to do that. Not next year, but like down the road.
It's just going to take time for Lebby and Mississippi State. You know, they're not going to be as quick to the playoff, I don't think, as Indiana was. Now, let's be real though. Indiana had a clearer path. Michigan was down in the 2 years that Indiana rose to this great state of, you know, 16-0 national title. Penn State was down. Like, these aren't the same gauntlets. You know, Indiana didn't have to run through the same kind of schedule that all of these SEC teams that we're talking about have to run through. Mississippi State is going to have to try to overcome Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama, Tennessee, Ole Miss, you know, an Auburn program that's going to be better, a Florida program that's going to be better, you know, a South Carolina program that'll bounce back. I mean, this is a deep, deep conference. So it's going to be really difficult, I think, for any of these teams. Kentucky might have a chance if they've got some big time, big money donor backers that are just throwing a bunch of money at the NIL thing. But a lot is going to ride on Kenny Minchie. Like the thing that has made Indiana so successful is Curt Cignetti is batting 100 or batting 1,000 on his transfer portal quarterback additions. You know, Curtis Rourke was really, really good. Francisco Mendoza was fantastic and a Heisman winner. You cannot strike out on transfer portal quarterbacks like Auburn did. Like, we've seen so many in the conference struggle to find those guys. If you strike out on a transfer portal quarterback, or any quarterback for that matter, a guy you recruit, it's going to set you back.
Fernando.
And I mean, how much of that is based off
Fernando,
of
it's Christmas time. My apologies.
As far as like recognizing fit in your system. I mean, nobody had Fernando Mendoza as the top portal quarterback. I mean, he whooped Auburn at Cal. And I remember like looking at that game like, wow, this Fernando Mendoza guy's good. I had no idea he'd be a Heisman winner and, win a national championship. But I mean, that just goes to show how important fit is in this transfer portal era, when we're so used to and accustomed to looking at, is this guy a 4-star? Is he a 3-star? Whatever. To now in this portal system where you can't scout these 4,000 players that are in the portal. We're all just kind of guessing based off of what they did in a previous spot and their production. And it's up to these coaches to kind of shift through all of that and say, hey, I don't care what his production was. I don't care what he was out of high school. This guy fits what we want to do. And some coaches have been better at that than others.
Lane Kiffin taking Trinidad Chambers from Ferris State. We all looked at that addition, or at least I did, looked at that. I was like, oh, that's a weird addition, but okay, maybe he'll be a backup. And I mean, to me, he should have been a Heisman finalist for how good he was last year. But that just goes to show you find the right guy to put in the right system, and they can be incredibly dynamic for you.
Before we move on, I think we owe it to our buddy John Neighbors to at least put Arkansas in this category, right? If Ryan Silverfield is the right guy, maybe Arkansas one day.
I don't see it. Don't see it.
All right.
I'm not going to let John have hope. We're not
hey, 3 years ago, if I said, "What about Indiana?" All you guys would have been, "No, don't see it. Don't see it." No, they've opened the door for everything.
It also takes a pretty special coach to do that, and I think what we found out is Curt Cignetti is pretty special as a coach.
Yeah, I mean, even at James Madison, he was great, but was anybody running to, we'll see.
Well, even when James Madison was FCS, he was getting to the championship game. He's won everywhere he's been.
People just aren't chasing 60-something-year-old head coaches in college football. That I think some of it's an age factor. He was a little bit overlooked because he's of an older demographic, and these programs are looking for somebody that they can have for 10, 15, 20 years.
It's been pretty rare in the history of college football that a new coach arrives on the scene that captures everyone's imagination, and he's a new name to everybody, and he's 64.
Yeah.
You don't often see that happen in the sport or any sport.
When we return, guys, we talked a little bit on the transfer portal. I want to show you the latest rankings on the highest ranked player in the portal at all the SEC schools. We'll touch on that when we return. SEC Squad, talking more ball next. Hey, but first, guys, want to remind you about our friends over at TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life, and this year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things over and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. Don't be like Zach Blackerby where you're trying to do it on your own. Try to figure out all those forms on your own. It can be confusing. Meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They'll handle everything from your W-2s to self-employed forms. They'll work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It is a huge time saver and gives you real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. All right, fellas, SEC Squad roll along here. And I thought this would be kind of fun to take a look at. Everybody's vying for good portal additions and all this. And so I made a listing of the top, well, those are the top classes, but the top rankings of the highest rated player that every team has added through the portal. So take a look at our list, and I'll just ask you, look at all the names here. Which prospect intrigues you most in terms of a guy that's coming to the SEC this year?
Well, he's not coming to the SEC, but Deuce Knight going to Ole Miss, I think, is fascinating. I mean, obviously, the Trinidad Chambers aspect of this throws in another wrinkle, and I think that would be the best case for Deuce and for Ole Miss. But let's assume just for a second that Deuce Knight has to be the guy. I mean, that's the million-dollar question of, is he ready? Is he ready to go? Small sample size. We saw him look really good against Mercer at Auburn, obviously, last year. What does it look like in a new system and a new situation? Deuce Knight to me is fascinating, whether it happens this year or next year, depending on Trinidad.
Jaheim Otis, who was at Alabama with Pete Golding, he can be a monster in that system and has been a monster in that system. And also, I think his name is Michael Boyro, the zero technique defensive lineman from Florida. Whenever you're getting the big boys in the middle, you're obviously spending money. Those are the two that I'm most excited. Deuce Knight, obviously, I am looking forward to a situation to where he is like learning under Trinidad how to actually play the position and all of that stuff. And the wide receiver, Jonte Cook, who was one of the better players at the Under Armour All-American game I've ever seen with my own two eyes. He hasn't worked out before. He has an unbelievably high ceiling, but he has to hit it. Those are the players that I'm probably most excited about.
Yeah, for me, it's Austin Simmons at Missouri. I think is really interesting. You know, Missouri had a pretty good quarterback this year before Bo Perbula got hurt, but Austin Simmons was really impressive at Ole Miss. I think Trinidad Chambers and his success sort of overshadowed how impressive Austin Simmons was early before his injury. But I think Austin Simmons at Missouri is certainly interesting. Sam Leavitt at LSU, of course, is interesting. All the quarterbacks seemingly have played for Lane Kiffin have exploded on the scene. Sam Leavitt, a really impressive redshirt freshman year, not so good this past year, though affected by injury. But how good will Sam Leavitt be at LSU? Lane Kiffin seems to have the Midas touch with quarterbacks recently.
I think what is fascinating is Texas just bringing in two running backs that could both be bell cow guys. And, Hollywood Smothers and Raleek Brown. I would have liked for Oklahoma to go after either of those guys to add to what they have is a pretty young running back room, and they got both of them. So I'll be really curious how that plays out because you only got so many footballs to hand off, and both those guys are dynamic, pass catchers out of the backfield as well. How is, Steve Sarkisian going to use those guys? It's going to be really fascinating to watch. But to me, the other one is just the Cam Coleman edition. I think you get Cam Coleman and Ryan Wingo together. And I know this is an Oklahoma guy giving Texas way too much praise, and I hate to do it, but they're big time additions. And it's going to be a test for everybody in every secondary in the SEC to try and figure out how to cover both of those guys.
Just to vent for a slight second here. I mean, you think about how bad Auburn's offense was last season. And Deuce Knight, the highest rated guy for Ole Miss. Cam Coleman, the highest rated guy for Texas of all places.
Sorry.
And then Eric Singleton, the highest rated guy for Florida coming in. It's just goodness gracious what could have been if you had any sort of offensive coaching. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's almost like they had a bad coach with a bad offense.
Another thing, Byron Brown not being ranked as high as Deuce Knight is crazy. Like, that is absurd. But whatever.
I agree with that. Byron's too. He's far more. I know Deuce has a ton of upside, and we saw what he did against Mercer. But Byron Brown's been doing it for multiple seasons against Power 4 teams, not just the Group of 5 teams. I think I'm with Zach. That's nuts.
I mean, some of these rankings are fun to look at, but they're also a little bit flawed because they take into account too much of what they were as a high school prospect, as opposed to what they are now. Like, I don't care that a senior was a 4-star prospect out of high school. That doesn't matter anymore. Tell me what he's done in college.
It's just impossible though, because not everybody's production it should be weighted the same. It shouldn't. And with these high school rankings, I mean, these guys have been charted and scouted for years. I mean, Jimmy, I'm sure you can speak super well to that. Like this guy's a 3-star for forever, then he gets his 4-star, and that's a big deal. Like, you just have so much information about these guys. And then we're having to rank, 4,000 players in the span of like 2 weeks. It's impossible. We just got to guess.
Two people.
Yeah.
Like, it's basically like ranking for the transfer portal is like PFF grades. There's just not enough people to do it.
There's some context there that's useful, but like it's not doctrine for sure.
Yeah, what we do in the industry in terms of a recruiting cycle, a recruiting class, you're talking about 14, 15 months of ranking those kids and the all-star games, and the commitments come out sort of slow. The transfer portal does it all in 2 weeks.
Unbelievable.
What the high school recruiting cycle takes 15 months. And that's why it's just around the clock news, impossible to rank these guys. It's just so much, so fast.
The only other one I'll point out on that list that I really liked, Chaz Coleman going to Tennessee. Jim Knowles taking over as DC at Tennessee. That really intrigues me because there's been the staple that it takes him a little over a year to settle in at a new spot and really get the defense going. But he's bringing a bunch of his guys from Penn State with him. So you got to think there's going to be some continuity there. But really intrigued by that because we know Heupel's always got the offense. We don't even know who their quarterback is right now at Tennessee, but you feel pretty good. The offense is going to be fine. But if the defense gets to like really, really good level, watch out for Tennessee next year.
Interesting quarterback situation too. I guess they're likely going with the young guy, George McIntyre, certainly a highly regarded high school quarterback, but and they took a few swings in the portal, but they seem comfortable with McIntyre.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this, guys, before we move on? Oh, by the way, Zach, we created this graphic for you last week, Chris Marler. So feel free to use that however you see fit.
We got a lot of them. Look, I think some of those South Florida guys are going to be impactful in the SEC. I really do. I mean, Byron Brown, Keyshawn Singleton, there's going to be some studs, I think, from South Florida.
I mean, there's proof of concept from Kurt Cignetti about, hey, you bring guys that fit your system that have the same mentality. There's a chance that you can have a lot of success. I mean, we'll see if it happens for Auburn, but it worked for Indiana.
They beat Florida.
They won as many. They can go into that locker room and look at the guys who are returning and say, we won as many SEC games last year as you did, which makes me want to cry. But here we are.
By the way, before Gordy goes to break everything, I do want to say props to Mississippi State. They've actually had a very good portal cycle that went through this time. You look at it, Jeff Levy's doing some work. They're not getting credit for it yet, and I know I'm the Ole Miss guy, but they're doing some work right now.
Gordy just picked him to win the SEC last segment. What do you mean?
I did not.
Jeff Levy was key to Oklahoma's portal success and NIL stuff before he left for Mississippi State. So it's no shock to me that he's having success on that front.
Yeah, 34th of all college football. I think that's pretty good. Again, these are subjective rankings, but just pretty cool to have every SEC team in the top 40 basically of portal rankings. So tells you where college football is moving now. It ain't all about just recruiting. It's about portal and, hey, do you have the right quarterback? When we return, looking ahead, never too early to look ahead. The folks at On 3, they gave you the way too early top 25 for 2026. We'll touch on that next. All right, fellas, the guys over at On 3 Sports, they put together the way too early top 25 earlier this week. Let's take a look at it as, look, this is subjective, but it's a bunch of the guys over at On 3 who all got together and said, let's do some rankings. But they put Georgia number 2, Texas number 3, Ohio State was number 1, A&M 8, Oklahoma 10. I'm sure John Williams likes that. LSU under Lane Kiffin 12, Ole Miss all the way down at 15. They must think Trinidad's not coming back.
Yeah,
Jimmy Stein's Bama at 17. I don't think we've seen Bama that low in the preseason in a long time. Tennessee 20 and Florida jumping into the top 25. I think that's a little respect to John Sumrall. But what do you guys make of those rankings?
Well, just about
not as bad as some other. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Well, I would say Alabama at 17. That's new. That's new since 2007, really. But just about everyone ahead of Alabama is returning their quarterback. So much of preseason rankings are about who's returning their quarterback. And a year ago, Ty Simpson was considered a very lowly ranked SEC quarterback going into the season before anybody had really seen him play. I think Alabama's going to suffer with that a little bit this year in terms of they feel good about what they have at quarterback, but it won't be respected by the national media until they see it.
Yeah, those rankings aren't as bad as some of the other ones that I've seen. Like I've seen Michigan ahead of Oklahoma, and look, Kyle Whittingham's great, but it's a new coach and he's still got a young quarterback. Like this is a team that lost to Oklahoma last year, and we're going to all of a sudden put them ahead of the Sooners going into the way too early. But in these rankings, like I have no problem with Oklahoma at 10. I feel like, anywhere from 8 to 12 would be about right for them. They've got to prove that they're going to take a step on offense and that the defense is going to be able to be as effective as it was this past year, despite all the losses that we suffered on the defensive line. There are going to be some question marks around Oklahoma, but I think with what they've done in the portal, this team has taken a step offensively. Now it's just going to be time to go prove it on the football field.
Yeah, I bet you if you looked at their subscriber numbers of different sites, you could probably match that up to the rankings as it's situated, because Notre Dame at 4 and Texas is way up there. I think all of the state of Texas is in the top 10 and all of that. It's way too early rankings, and nobody likes a list more than college football fans in January after the season's
That's right.
over.
Let's go.
Yeah. So it's fun. It's fodder, and it's content for all of our shows. So I like it.
People love lists.
So I said, Chris, you put that list back up, Chris. Look at when I'm what. So Julian Sands back at 1. Gunnar Stockton's back at 2. Arch Manning at 3. Carr at 4. Indiana's got a well-known transfer coming in, and Josh Hoover. Oregon's got Dante Moore back. Not sure what Texas Tech situation is. A&M returns Marcel Reed. Yeah, Sorsby at Texas Tech. Marcel Reed, at 8. Miami's apparently going to have Mensa. Oklahoma brings Mateer back. Michigan brings Underwood back. You just go through. It's just who's got their quarterback coming back dominates all of these type lists.
Yeah. Penn State feels a little bit too high for me.
Yeah, that's like somebody loves Matt Campbell and they're like, oh, he's going to do awesome there.
And I like Rocco Beck too, but that's a big jump in competition for them.
Yeah, I think that it's tough to do this. And again, that's why they say it's still way too early. I mean, guys, we're in January. Like, we haven't even seen what these teams look like in the spring. Hell, the portal's not even fully done. There's still hundreds of guys still in the portal picking their teams. I understand maybe not that many difference makers, but certainly a guy that could be a starting O-lineman, a starting wide receiver, still potentially out there in the portal. But it is just fun to kick around, because here's a few things we know. We know Texas is going to get a ton of hype because of Arch Manning returning with adding Cam Coleman, right? Like Texas is almost a lock to be top 5. The Georgia one's interesting because, look, I've been the buyer in Georgia last years, and I know they're back-to-back SEC championship winners, but they're also back-to-back Sugar Bowl losers. And Georgia, that I've picked as my national champion the last 2 years, I'm not doing it again this year because they've kind of fallen off from that pedestal. And so I don't know, to automatically put Georgia's preseason top 2 just because Gunnar Stockton and some pieces are back. I don't know if I'm going to give them that much love.
Yeah, to me, it's about the consistency with Georgia. Like that's why I'm still going to be high on them, is because I haven't seen a lull out of that team. Yes, they haven't necessarily performed as well as you expect them to in the playoff games, but they're still getting deep into the playoffs and they're finding their way to contend for national titles. It's just not reaching the pinnacle in the last few years, but they're still as consistent as anybody in college football.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, looking at this list, this way too early list, the Oklahoma at number 10. What do they do with their offense next season? Same quarterback, same coordinator, not really any new names coming in the transfer portal. Are they thinking material is going to be that much better? That is my question at 10, just looking at this list.
Yeah, I mean, they added Marion Harris, the right tackle from Arkansas, who was apparently their top rated portal addition. They added Trell Harris, who was an all ACC performer, had almost 900 yards receiving last year. Added Parker Livingston, who had 6 touchdowns for Texas and was Arch Manning's roommate, over 500 yards as a redshirt freshman. So they've made additions on the offensive side of the ball. Brandon Olson, our guy's favorite tight end, Hayden Hansen from Florida, Rocky Beers from Colorado State. They've really been aggressive, upgrading the offense and attacking needs so that, hey, listen, even though we lost some guys on the defense, our offense is about to take a step. So the defense isn't having to carry us every single week like it had to in 2025. So no, they've been aggressive to try and get John Mateer some weapons. And I think they've been really successful at finding not just guys that can play, but a variety of types of guys that can play. And they brought back Isaiah Satania, who had almost 900 yards receiving and was an all SEC guy as well. So the offense should take a step To me, it's going to be more about what the offensive line does. Can they take a step? Because you were really, really young. They played 3 freshmen for a lot of this season, and it looked like that. They just weren't physically up to the task. Mentally, they were there. In a pass protection scheme, they were there. As run blockers, still had some ways to go. But hopefully this offseason of strength and conditioning gets them a little bit better footing as they attack the SEC in 2025 or 2026.
Can I give you all the one I would flip out of here and put in? I would trade Florida for South Carolina. I think Lenora Sellers. I think that should be maybe 24-25, but I would maybe sneak in South Carolina into a preseason top 25 just because I think what a difference Kendall Briles will make with that offense. May regret saying that. Oh, and Christian Clark, the freshman running back from Texas that Longhorn fans loved. He's now at South Carolina.
He rushed for 100 yards in the bowl game against Michigan.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I mean, South Carolina was one of those teams that was just cursed by injuries this year and didn't really have a chance. Like Lenora Sellers, as good as he is, didn't have a chance because there was no offensive line to block for him. So if they have any kind of injury, good luck. They're going to be a bounce back team flirting with 8, 9, 10 wins. I don't think that they should be considered as highly as they were going into 2025, but they're going to be a team that's going to create some problems for some of these SEC teams, and they'll perform well in non-conference, and they've got one of the better quarterbacks in college football. So the's a chance, man. I don't think that's out of the question.
They improved that O-line too. They got a lot of big portal pieces that they added. All right, fellas, as we wrap up, I want to thank our listeners for making us your first listen of the day. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. We're talking access to your favorite Locked On show, ad-free audio feed for Locked On, and then also an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server where you can chat with us and ask any SEC questions you might have. It's $5 a month or $50 for the whole year at the LockedOnPodcast.com/Everydayer to learn more. For Zach Blackerby, Stephen Willis, Jimmy Stein, John Williams, I am Chris Gordy. This has been our Locked On SEC Squad Show. Talk to you guys next week.